Chapter 19 Home. With her eyesight dimming, Corinne was barely able to make out the pair of shadows that charged at her and Drew from above. She felt sure she would soon be in the belly of some fish, but the shadows swam under them and pushed Corinne and Drew to the surface. They gulped air. Buki and Malik broke the water after them, panting. "They're heavier than they look, right, brother?" Buki said. Malik nodded. "I thought you were done for," Buki added. "I thought you were a shark," Corinne said once she caught her breath. "Where are we?" Drew asked. Corinne looked toward the unfamiliar shore, still a long swim away. She had never seen land stretch out so far. Malik started swimming for the beach. The others followed. It seemed like an hour before they arrived on the golden sand dotted with coconut trees, scrub, and grass. To their left stood a building like a huge sand castle. It was thick and solid and loomed over the sea like a sentinel. "It's a fort," Buki said. "I've seen one of those before." "Where?" Corinne asked. "Where?" Corinne asked. "On the other side of the island." "Is that where we are?" Drew asked hopefully. Malik shook his head. "This is different and bigger, much bigger." "It's morning," Corinne said. "It wouldn't have taken all night to get to the other side of the island." "And that's not where the sun would come up," Buki added. "We have to find the mermaids," Corinne said. Malik pointed at a thin rivulet that emptied into the sea, shallow enough to show the trail of mermaid tails going up and over the sandbar. On the other side, the bottom dropped again into a calm, clear pool. Past an outgrowth of bushes that grew out of the water, they heard voices tinkling like rain on a tin roof. The mermaids were on the other side. Corinne thrashed through the bushes and grabbed Cece by the arm. "You left us to drown." "You don't look drowned," Noe said. "Please don't talk about drowning," Ellie said. She looked as if she might cry. Addie put her arms around Ellie's shoulders and patted her head. Cece looked confused for a moment. "You are still here?" she asked. "But this is not your home." "No, Cece, it isn't," Corinne said. "You were supposed to bring us here safely." "Where are we?" Drew asked. "Ghana," Cece said, "and my name is Boinma." "I don't care where we are or what you're called," Buki said. "We're only here to get Mama Delo's jewel. Then you have to take us back." "Back where?" Cece asked. Malik pointed across the waves. "Back home," Corinne said. "This is our home, and our people are here," Ellie said. "Don't bother Ababuo," said Noe. "They don't care about our families." Corinne moved into the circle of mermaids, who had turned back to their chatter. "Mama Delo sent us here," she said, "and since this is your home, you should be able to tell us how to get the jewel, right?" "Jewel?" Cece said. "Yes, a big stone like this." Buki held up a fist. "There are plenty of stones around here," Noe said impatiently. "Take any one of them and go." Her lips curled and her eyes narrowed. "Who thinks about stones when we just got back home? Selfish." "It's not just any stone," Drew said. "Why don't you remember what Mama Delo said?" "Who?" Cece asked. Buki sucked his teeth long and hard. "Shh!" Malik walked onto shore and climbed a sharp embankment. Corinne and Drew followed. They were near a dirt road very much like the one that led from the fishing village to the market on their island. Only this road was reddish, not the deep brown they were used to. Vendors were set up along the side, selling things from carvings of masks and animals with long horns that Corinne had never seen before. Vendors were set up along the sides, selling things from stalls. There was jewelry made with beads and hammered metal, carvings of masks and animals with long horns that Corinne had never seen before. A silver radio blasted out music with a quick, catchy rhythm. Corinne recognized only some of the words. The collection of sellers reminded her of the market at home, with more men and the people in different clothing. Women on their island wore bright-colored skirts that gathered at the waist. Here, the skirts were covered in colorful, tessellating patterns that made Corinne feel dizzy. Some wore white blouses like the women on the island, but others had blouses in the same patterns as their skirts. And still others wore great breezy dresses that hung straight from their shoulders to their ankles with large sleeves that caught the wind. Most of the women wore head ties like the women at home, only these were elaborately folded into large bows and accordion-shaped fans like fabric crowns. The women without head ties had beautifully braided hair just like the mermaids. The braids spiraled out or were ruler straight or defied gravity, moving from the nape of their necks to the top of their heads, where they spilled down again like fountains. The men wore clothes just as bright, their short tunics, some in patterned cloth, others in solid colors with embroidery stitched at the hem and sleeves, hung over dark pants. Behind the people stood painted buildings that were probably once as vibrant as their clothing, but were now weather-beaten from the seawater and sand, showing bare wood in places. On one plastered wall, a sun-bleached image of a woman with loose, thick hair that fell past her shoulders smiled out at passers-by, despite the two large snakes wound around her neck. Beneath the painting was written Mami Wata. Noise rumbled underneath the vendors' music, the sounds of people talking, buying, selling, and greeting each other in a language Corinne didn't understand. One lady walked close to their hiding spot, a woven basket on her head, and a baby sucking its fist. Excuse me. Cat break. A baby sucking its fist wrapped in bright cloth against her hip. They ducked so the woman wouldn't see them and peeked over the top again after she passed. Spotting them, the baby waved its soggy fist and smiled a toothless greeting. A mouth-watering medley of scents of fried food filled the morning air. Women sat behind huge silver pots atop shiny metal stands filled with burning coal. One of them was rolling dough between her palms and dropping it into the hot oil. Corinne recognized the salty, inviting scent of one of her favorite foods, akra, saltfish rolled in dough and fried in oil. "I'm starving," Buki said. Corinne's stomach growled, but she waved him away. If we don't eat something soon, we won't survive long enough to find this jewel," he complained. "I'm sure they don't deal with people who have no money," Corinne said. Buki snorted. "When has that ever been a problem?" He looked at Malik, and they stretched their fingers and smiled as if they could already taste the food. "Don't," Drew said. "You can't steal. It's not right." "It's not right to starve," Buki said. "They'll be happy to know they're helping hungry children." "So we should ask them," Drew said. "Ask?" Buki looked shocked. "It's so much easier when they give without knowing. It has 100% success and 0 waiting and hoping." The boys looked through the reeds at the top of the bank. "Drew is right. We should ask," Corinne said. "It will limit your success and likely your portion," Buki said glumly, "and who knows how long we will be here." In the water beneath them, the mermaids huddled together, talking in a combination of tongues. It sounded like the language of people on the other side of the mound, mixed with English and the watery language the mermaids had used in the ocean. "What do we do now?" Drew asked them. Noe rolled her eyes. "You could ask for help. What a bunch of lazy fish. We brought them here, and they can't walk a few steps to find what they are looking for?" Ellie put her hands to her face. "I remember walking when we lived here. I remember the mud through my toes and rough bark against my skin when I climbed trees," she said. "I didn't live in the water." "How did we come to be like this?" Addie asked. "We were just like them with their 2 tails." It was Ellie's turn to wipe her friend's tears and pat her on the back. "Whatever happened to you, it's not our fault," Buki said. "Whose then?" Drew whispered. Something prickled in Corinne's mind. Mama DeLo had warned her to bring the mermaids back, as if she knew that they might not want to return. And Mama DeLo knew that they were going home. She had told them so. How would she know? Buki was right. This Jumbie didn't seem like the kind to have saved the girls, but how else could they be in her care if she had not helped them? So many others had been left behind. Corinne's mind was a tangled mess, each new thought a knot that she couldn't pick loose. How to find the jewel, how to get back home, who the mermaids really were. More troubling of all was the mystery of where Laurent, Marlene, and Gabrielle had disappeared to, and what Mama DeLo had to do with it.